Speaking of things you can't make up, this one is baffling. This one had me cracking up. So climate change activists in the US and across the world are ramping up their actions in what they would say is an attempt to save the planet. So these people have been around, honestly, for decades, but it's just crazy. As the older I get, the willingness of what these people are willing to do for climate change is really baffling. So in recent months, far left activists have glued themselves to famous paintings, disrupted new pipeline construction, scaled buildings, blocked rush hour traffic, lit themselves on fire. That's not funny, but I don't know how that helps anything. I can't do it. I told myself when I was going to do this story, hold it together. Look, lighting themselves on fire is not funny. It's just the aspect of they think that this is actually going to solve things. When you light yourself on fire, I'm not going to take you seriously. I'm just not. Well, they threatened to disrupt the congressional baseball game and slashed tires of random sport utility vehicles in cities around the world. You know, if there's anything like getting people on board for your narrative and a movement, it's really just slashing their tires that's going to do it. Or lighting yourself on fire, I suppose. The activists have argued that world governments have failed citizens by not acting aggressively enough to enact policies curbing warming. Very similar to the language that you had Greta Thunberg proposed. You're not doing enough. You're evil, you bastards. You're sick. I don't love you. I love people that want to glue their hands to artwork. She didn't really say that, but it's not too far from something she would probably say. Am I not right? Quote, we cannot continue to wait around for a bunch of corporate shills in Congress to do nothing while people are dying, Greenpeace USA Senate climate campaigner Ashley Thompson said last week. Greenpeace is one of the oldest environmental organizations of its kind in the world, and its international affiliates have staged multiple direct actions this year, ranging from scaling a venue, hosting a major conference in France, to blocking a ship from departing in a Dutch port, to climbing a deep-sea mining vessel in the North Sea. Such actions have seemingly become more common in the face of what activists deem an impending global disaster. Now, a portion of this does kind of make sense in terms of what they're doing, because these people in their mind really think the world is going to end. So if you thought the world was literally going to end based on other people's actions of, you know, their footprints, then you would probably glue yourself or glue your face to a board or sew your face to a rug. I don't know what the hell you would do, but these people believe in this stuff so wholeheartedly that they would literally light themselves on fire. It's crazy. Quote, climate change is the only issue where, in the worst case, it really would affect the ability of our citizens to, or our civilization to continue, rather. The threat there is just much higher. Climate activist Ken Ward told Fox News Digital in an interview, quote, if you do a bad job on clean water, then you've got some polluted water. You can recoup that. With the worst case in climate change, that's not an option. Well, if you polluted the water and you're able to kind of fix it and revamp it and make it better, you can do the same with climate change. I mean, that's the whole purpose of you doing all this movement, right? Is to kind of fix it, bring awareness to it. So, I mean, you can fix it. It's going to take some time. You can't always force it upon people, which is what they want to do. You want to have governments force certain policies, force certain regulations upon people rather than just letting things happen naturally. Quote, if you are on track to have the southern part of our nation unlivable and also dehydrated in 20 years or less, what do you do about that? Ward continued. If there was an agreement that was a serious threat, then we would drop other things that we are doing and pay attention to that. I mean, again, these people are part of the Democrat Party primarily. I'm not saying there aren't some climate alarmists in the Republican Party. I do think the climate is changing. I do agree with that. Who's to blame for it? How do we solve it? I think that's where we divide on policy, on terms of again, regulation, forcing things upon companies that maybe shouldn't be enforced on. All these things, spending $3 billion for windmills and then wanting to put solar panels and windmills all across the United States as if that's going to do something, when a lot of conservatives and Republicans, we want nuclear power. It's clean. It's good. It's better than windmills and solar panels. It uses a less of a footprint than what they would be proposing if they were to put in place windmills and turbines. It's as if they didn't think about how they're going to solve the problem. They just want to say there's a problem out there. And then not only do they want to present how to fix it, but how they want to fix it is it's asinine. It's just completely asinine. In October 2016, Ward closed the valve to a pipeline transporting crude oil from Western Canada to Mount Vernon, Washington, as part of a coordinated action. The same day, fellow activists who, along with Ward, were collectively known as the valve turners, shut off valves to similar pipelines in Montana, North Dakota, and Minnesota. I'm sorry, you're called the valve turners? It's so stupid. It's like Home Alone. What were they called? The wet bandits? Well, we're the wet bandits, Mav. Come on, man. Oh, it's like a high school band. Oh, we're the valve turners, dude. I don't take any of this seriously, as you could tell. Again, I'm all for people having clean energy. I want to breathe clean air. I want to drink clean water. I'm all with it, but I mean, these tactics are just so baffling. Ward, who eventually pled guilty to trespassing, followed the incident, told Fox News Digital that such action is necessary if there's political gridlock and all the ordinary processes aren't working. Activists like Ward often cite United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports and the so-called Climate Clock, an online tool developed in 2020 to highlight how long humanity has left to limit global warming. So there's this clock going, kind of like what AOC is pushing. We have 12 years before we die. Push the Green New Deal, revamp everything, spend like $92 trillion on just giving everybody basically a zero carbon footprint and just six asinine things. It's like if you were to go to like second grade and some kid just yelled out something ridiculous and you're kind of like, oh, okay, like I'm not going to acknowledge that, but that was a little weird. That's the Democrat Party for you. For decades, fossil fuel corporations paid millions to confuse the public, contradict the science, and falsely claim that climate change was a hoax. Climate Clock co-founder Gan Golan told Fox News Digital that the tactic isn't working anymore because the results are plain for all of us to see. So they have rolled out a new tactic, delay. Climate delay has become the new climate denial. So even if you believed in climate change, and you're trying to delay certain things from happening to make sure that those things that you're trying to delay actually solve the problem and curb the problem, all of a sudden you're still a climate denier. This is like that same idea of when those people say that you're racist and you're like, I'm not racist. And they go, well, you're white and you need to acknowledge that you're racist. And you're like, okay, I'm not racist. Well, the fact that you say you're not racist still makes you racist. That's kind of the whole idea that they're pushing here, very similar to the progressive left in terms of racism. Quote, in a democracy, if citizens believe their leaders are putting corporate interest over their own lives, they're going to exercise their First Amendment rights, he added. Young people have been leading the way, and it's time for everyone else who cares about their future to join them. Oh, because you're not involved in all this? Yeah, you don't care about your future, folks. You don't care about anybody else's future because you're a climate denier. It might be happening around you. You might not be fully supportive in what they're doing, like gluing their faces to a freaking rug or lighting themselves on fire. And if you're not into that, hey, you're a climate denier. Of course, I'm being a little bit facetious here and joking just a little bit. It's just, the progressive left, I have a tough time. I have a tough time taking them seriously. And this is why I love politics. I thrive on politics because it's craziness. It's just a clown show. It's stand-up comedy to me when you see Joe Biden go out there, when you got Kamala Harris going out there, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Ilhan Omar, the Democrat Party. I can't help but laugh. Look, Donald Trump's a little bit funny too, right? That's why I say, you're the best, okay? See you there, Jim Acosta, you're the best, okay? You guys are the best. Like, Trump was funny to me. I love politics. So the Climate Clock algorithm currently pegs a deadline for action limiting warming at a 1.5 degrees Celsius at around July 2029. So this is like the doomsday, okay? I'm sure it will change. The clock always changes. It was supposed to be 12 years. Now it's 10 or whatever. Friday marked the group's first climate emergency day when the clock goes from 7 years to 6 years. Oh, so it really is changing. It's just going faster. Because governments and politicians have failed to protect us from this danger, we must protect ourselves, says the website. A UK group whose members have deflated SUV tires around the cities of US, Canada, and Europe. I can't. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I'm laughing so much. I really do my best to keep it together on these shows because behind the scenes, without you guys knowing, when I'm preparing, I am cracking up because it's unbelievable to me that some of this is taken seriously. Some of it obviously isn't, but God, we live in 2022 and you wouldn't think that this type of stuff exists. People slashing tires, lighting themselves on fire, gluing their faces to freaking paintings, gluing their hands to paintings. Some guy like cemented himself in the pavement. It's just, It's nuts. So there's different video clips that we have here of people doing all sorts of shenanigans. Let's go ahead and roll it.
More. This will mean over 20% of the landmass of this planet becoming uninhabitable. We are here beneath this magnificent, beautiful painting today to join the dots. We are facing an era of multiple breadbasket failure. Crops are failing now all across the planet. India has stopped exporting any wheat. The Po River in Italy is drying up. This is Leonardo da Vinci's own country here. It provides the country with a huge amount of agriculture. Our future is...
We're asking President Biden to declare a climate emergency and to stop all extraction on federal and indigenous land. The recent IPCC report, that's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, says that we have a brief and rapidly closing window to address the climate crisis. And one of the world's top scientists, Sir David King, recently said that we have basically 2 to 3 years to take drastic action on the climate, and the government isn't listening.
So as you know, the White House said Tuesday that Biden is still considering declaring a climate emergency after Senator Joe Manchin effectively killed Democrats' hopes for sweeping climate legislation last week. However, Biden opted against making such a pronouncement this week, instead announcing a series of executive actions during a speech in Massachusetts on Wednesday, which we covered here on the show. So because he doesn't get his way, he's going to make sure he does by putting through executive actions. And look, I wasn't a big fan of it when Trump did it, which is why I've stated many times I'm just not a big fan of presidents using executive orders, executive actions to get their way. There's a process. We are a republic and a democracy. Let's use the process that's in place. You're not always going to get what you want. Hey, again, that's why we live in this great nation called the United States. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.